This is gonna be the Thorns Barbarian. We're using heavy iron Barb elixir for thorns and armor. We'll do our usual benchmarks like high 50s. And this item we save, and let's see how it's gonna go. So unbuffed, right now, obviously with Razor Plate, we are at 16k, and buffed, we reach 28k. I think we can reach a bit more, like almost 30k thorns. It's gonna be good. I think it should be good to melt everything. Hey, Star Timbo, thanks for the prime. So we just stand here and let the guys kill themselves. Pork. It works. Boom, insta-dead. It's gonna be pretty chill farming, I think. Here's some damage reduction. And keep in mind, guys, we use Rend to extend and keep the monsters vulnerable. And we use Lunging Strike to move and keep our Berserking. Because while we are Berserking, we have a lot more thorns. So it's pretty pork. In here and just go in and blast them. And we get even more AoE. This is the event. Get like way more AoE from our weapon here that spreads the thorns. So we kind of have area damage. Like the more monsters and the more monsters attack us, the more thorns damage we're gonna do. Or the more procs we're gonna get. Because that, to my testing, there's no ICD in this weapon. It just keeps on proccing. And as you can see, like we just stand here, cast our shouts, let the guys attack us, and well, they all die. Oh, look, you can't even like damage us while we're here. 30k thorns in PvP, we one shot. It will certainly be pretty strong. I mean, these guys here, they often take like million damage. If it's a direct hit, at least. I've seen 2 million hits with this, and I think it looks very strong. At least on this kind of content. Dark Ravine, new key. I'm not sure yet how the suppressor interacts with it. Yeah, it doesn't seem to like work with the suppressor. When I'm outside of the bubble, I can't hit in the bubble, even with the thorns. That's how it looked to me there. We'll have to do some testing, obviously. But yeah, I can just go in here and, you know, I just chill for a second and well, these guys better murder themselves. It's important that they are vulnerable. You saw there 1.5 million just on that guy. Like, I like to apply vulnerable. So you can go AFK, but obviously you do a little bit more damage if you apply vulnerable and berserking with like by yourself. But they will also trigger it. Look, like they will trigger the exploit whenever they attack. Anyways. So yeah. Don't even have to worry about that if you don't want to. Obviously it's a bit faster if you do perform the attack yourself. But yeah, that guy is just gonna kill himself, man. Idiot. Okay, here is the missile, the suppressor again. These ones definitely behave weird. He doesn't seem to be taking the split damage in the suppressor for some reason. And this key is like all the elites are suppressor. GG. But yeah, we can blast a bit, drink another elixir while these guys kill themselves. Oh, good job. Just kill yourself, it's fine. These monsters, hello. Yeah, these guys fucking know what it even in the suppressor. Like I said, the more monsters, the more Thorns procs we're gonna get. Like, it's basically like area damage on D3. Like, you just have more damage the more monsters attack you, because every monster triggers an AoE scenario of our Thorns, which is crazy. Look at that, boom. And again, like, Rend just extends our Thorns. I could still be using my generator a bit more, I think, to keep Berserking a bit better. Because else we rely on our Warcry to have Berserking. And that's not fully ideal. But it certainly does work. And here now I should cast my Lunging Strike. And that we did. $20k Thorns, yeah. I can do some PvP again later. Thorns is definitely the most fun build in PvP, if you're asking me. Even the skies of the boards, man, attack me. Okay. Let's see how it's gonna go versus this boss. Slap. Slap. What did I do? Lose Berserking. Slap. Ah, he's slapping himself good. Yes. Level 57 boss. I mean, he died in like, what, 10 seconds or something? Still pretty good. And I'm still leveling my Thorns Glyph here. Just for some further testing. Let's do one more run. Gorum Slums. So this one has the obstacles. They don't attack you. Oh no, it's the slums. It's not the... It's not the one where you have to kill the stone pillars. But even those, like, you just go close to it and then they will... The monsters will kill themselves. Currently leveling the Thorns Glyph. Yeah, let's go. Thorns is pork. Yeah, ideally, right now I have the swords just because I use them as basis for my other stuff. But yeah, in general, you don't want any crit damage. So the implicit of X would be the best for Thorns. I just don't have them currently. Let's see, what about these bees? Okay, they also trigger it. So that's pretty fine. And we can like try to like speedrun this a bit more. Boom, everything's dead. We just like, let's rush a bit and play some video games. Some good gameplay. So like we can trigger this and then just use our shouts to knock back the enemies pretty effectively. So they won't interrupt us. And I mean, even if they dare to interrupt us, they'd usually just die. I can try to demonstrate it here. I'm not sure. Sometimes if there's too many monsters, you can kind of keep them at bay. But let me kill them real quick now. Boom. One shot, everything. Pretty sick. Here, this worked as well. Like my savior. Here we go again. Just apply vulnerable, get berserking. Oh, my berserking was very late. You see here against that guy, he just wasn't vulnerable. Obviously, vulnerable is a huge multiplier, but again, if they just attack you, you're basically already keeping it. Yeah, this goes really fucking fast. And then we have this guy here. Other triggers on berserking. And he's dead. 2 shot basically. And we get the jail key. And now we get some archers. And against the archers, like, you really want to get close to them. So you hit them with your thorns. But yeah, this new objective is also, like, you don't have to kill all the monsters, just most. So I'm kind of going to rush a bit. We can also get this one. It's going to be a bit easier. Smell down these, like, because one single archer is like, yeah, it needs to shoot you. It's gonna take just a little longer without that. Like, melee monsters are definitely your best friends with Thorns, because they just come to you, and then they slap you, and then they insta-die, because they just kill themselves. So that's pretty nice in general. You can see here, like, look at these, like, they instantly die. And there's these elites, like, as long as they spawn. And as far as I know, the ground effects here, like this molten explosion, it doesn't trigger Thorns. You kind of need to see there, like, you sometimes need to wait for the melee monster to hit you. For, like, a proper damage rotation. But here, like, no, he's gonna melt. These are, like, melee dudes. I don't know how this guy healed. And I still notice there's some Berserking downtime here. That was a minion. That's why I took 2 shots. Yeah, and now we have actually the legendary to pick. And then a boss to fight. I think on the boss it's also going to be very comfortable. Like, walk up to him and boom. Let me see. Kind of keeping an eye out on my buff bar. To get some more Berserking procs. I don't know if these guys proc. Oh, they proc it. Definitely could analyze every mechanic and see if it just pops Thorns. But yeah, boom. Boss kill is also like 10 seconds. Maybe a bit faster even. On this one. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of an updated version here for sure. Because the last time I tested Thorns, we didn't had an important thing, and that is on the Codex of Power currently, it scales like with your level, so we can get a 12,000 Thorns here from the 200 weapons. So this one you definitely want to, imprint from the Codex of Power, which makes it really strong. So yeah, our unbuffed Thorns is 16k, and we get another like 12k here. And then there's various other buffs, like you can get about 33,000 Thorns when I use my skills and stuff, is what I have. And yeah, it's not fully min-max. You can also get like Thorns on your amulet here. Obviously Fury cost reduction is not really needed. And I also still have a bit of crit on my gear, for example. I mean, on this ring I already don't have crit damage, but you see close damage and stuff, and probably can get even another damage multiplier. But this is also feels very nice because you get your shouts and you get your fury, and you can just use rend all the time to extend vulnerable on the target. And the vulnerable damage is really important because it scales with swords, and you definitely want a lot like close damage, and here 400 vulnerable damage, and you don't want so much crit damage. I only have 200, so I already got rid of a lot of it, but it's hard. So the implicit here ideal is an axe on both of these, because yeah, crit damage doesn't work. And usually you can just get an axe like I did here on the offhand and get the damage to healthy enemies. Potentially one-shot them. I'm seeing like 2 million, 3 million Thorns. So it's pretty cool. Thorns scales with our max life, so you want to try to get some max life on your gear. Obviously cooldown reduction for the shout stacks and total armor is always helpful. We have the fortify mechanic here just to get us to the fortify shredholds. And then we have the Razor Plate. This is like the key of the build. Obviously, in order to take Razor Plate, you're getting a lot of offensive power, like a lot of Thorns. But you're also losing a lot of defensive power. And Thorns also needs defenses. So it's actually really sad to see that the Razor Plate doesn't have, any of the 4 primary affixes. Your usual chest armor is similar to your pants, with like 3 or 4 damage reduction mods. So that really feels like a bit lacking here. So maybe in some future patch we can get a slight buff here and get actual properties, like 4 normal armor properties on this, and then get the Thorns as a secondary, Who knows? Maybe that would be a nice change to bump Thorns up a little bit more, because it's a fun build, but it's not really like completely up there and competing. It's like maybe like a B tier build or something, but it's a lot of fun and unique playstyle. On a glass right now, I'm focusing here on rend, damage whenever we stand still, like usually against bosses and stuff. I'm trying to stand still and just rend them and get the stacks like that, more DPS. Lucky hit always helps attack speed as well for just faster rends. And I still have crit chance here. Obviously, it's not really needed, but these are my rend bracers, and I could just use them here. We went pretty defensive here on the pants. Again, we apply bleed with our rend, so we get damage reduction from bleeding, and we get another 20% damage reduction versus normal bleeding here, and then armor roll and close roll. Pretty good stuff. Unstoppable for movement speed here. Obviously, you don't necessarily need fury cost reduction here. Could take some other stats, but the Berserking duration I really like. Because, again, while we Berserk, we have a lot of Thorns, and we really want to be Berserking at all times if we can. Yeah, then this is the weapon that basically makes it possible to now like spread your area damage around. And this basically uses 80% of the direct damage that we take and applies it as Thorns in an AoE, like a close area around you. I believe the range is something like this. This guy, like, you know, around like 10 yards around your character or something. And this really works well in any density. It basically scales your build of density, which is really helpful, obviously. And in terms of stats, this one is pretty perfect. You want like all stats, main stat, vulnerable, and close. Because like Thorns is not a core skill. Thorns can't crit unless you have a lethal shrine. So you really want to have this like, you know, non-conditional, easy to get damage multipliers. And obviously Thorns is always close, so that condition is always already met anyways. And you can see here on most of my weapons I have okay rolls. Here obviously the crit is a dead roll, and we could also use another implicit. But we get barrier with our iron skin, at least in higher tier. We can get about 65% barrier here and scale it with this. Then we have some attack speed increase. We still have some crit, and I like the attack speed just to like keep renting and get our vulnerable extended, get some fury. Pretty good overall. Then the big weapon here as well, like you want an X as the implicit because it gives healthy damage to healthy enemies. Really strong stuff. Obviously the crit here is also not ideal, but overall this weapon has really, really nice stats. And then the Codex of Power Berserking, really good. Yeah, like I said on the rings already, we're playing the Shout rings. Like you definitely want to keep challenging Shout up at all times because it makes your Thorns scale with your life, so you get another, you know, 30% of Thorns here, and that gives us like, you know, more than 30k I believe on our sheet. We could quickly check that again, but overall it's a really strong buff, and you have another scaler. Like you can now stack maximum life. You could even get some more rolls, right? Like currently I only have it on my helm, 1000 maximum life, but you can also stack it like on other pieces like your chest and stuff. So there's definitely a lot you can do. And you see here I have like 33,000 Thorns almost, basically. And that's pretty good, with all the buffs up, obviously. And yeah, attack power also will go decently high, I guess. Let's give it another like 5 seconds here for the shouts. And yeah, you can see like 20k attack power when we stand still, and almost 33k Thorns with the buffs. And that's how we scale our damage, basically. And then on the amulet, we went a full defensive choice here with the armor scaling, because with Thorns, we need to be face tanking the hits to deal our damage. And we really want that. And we also get about 15,000 armor with this, because we already have 9.5 base, and we scale it with 75% again. So we have roughly over 15,000 armor. On the expertise, we use the X. Like Thorns itself doesn't use any weapon, so we don't really get the weapon, only a bit from our lunging strike. And we used the one-handers here to just attack fast. You could also... I guess the one-handers are the best choice in the end. And Rend needs a slicing weapon anyways. And we apply bleed, that helps us with our disobedience. Very good overall, 1.15 multiplier to the vulnerable. Helps a lot. Onto the skill tree, the abilities, we have Lunging Strike. This helps us to move around. This gives us Berserking. Again, to trigger our increased Thorns. Then we have 1 point into Rend. I get another 4 contribution here from my gloves. And then we have this rune, Enhanced Rend, that extends the duration of vulnerability. You can choose to not spend this second upgrade, but some fury never hurts to keep spamming that Rend. And yeah, then we have 3 in the defensive rolls here against Thorn Scales with your life, really good stuff. We have Challenging Shout here, maxed currently. Obviously, usually we have another +4 Challenging Shout in the chest, But sadly, Razor Blade doesn't provide that option. Again, I could see that being changed. I think that would be a good change. But then we have Tough as Nails, Outburst, like our Thorns passive. Normal stuff. The rune is changed here to Thorns equal to maximum life. That's how we get to 33,000 Thorns and like 2-3 million damage ticks. On the high-end Iron Skin to get Barrier and more toughness. Warcry for more damage. All the supports for the Warcries we use more damage reduction while we're Berserking. Close damage reduction. 1 point in Hamstring here for our bleeds to slow the enemies. This can help a lot when you move around, maneuver around the enemies. Then we have counter offensive here. We get +3 from our amulet, another +3. This gives us 24 multiplicative damage, and then unconstrained just to have some extra damage and keep the duration of our Berserker up. And yeah, onto the Paragon Boards. We use Revenge here. This is the Thorns glyph. Dealing Thorns damage to an enemy increases all damage it takes from you up to 8% multiplicatively. Very good stuff, and it also gives some very nice bonus to the magic knowns. Thorns scales with your physical damage, and here gives us a nice... When it's maxed, it's going to give us about 40% physical. And 400 armor here is also very, very nice for us. And then we have the Marshal, Hunter Killer, pretty standard stuff. Warbringer for Fortify. And, well, the Exploit here for the Vulnerable. This one also auto-triggers on the Thorns proc. Like, whenever a monster attacks you, it takes Thorns damage. And that Thorns damage, it takes Proxy Exploit. And then the next attack will be with the Vulnerable multiplier. It doesn't work, sadly, on the initial attack. Like, whenever the monster attacks you, the attack happens first, and then it takes the Thorns, and only then the Vulnerable is applied. So the first hit, you see like the 300,000, 400,000 hits, it's without Vulnerable. And then you take that 400,000, you multiply it by like 4 by 5 for the Vulnerable, and then you have the 2 million that I usually hit for with that. Because Thorns damage has no variance, it's always like a fixed amount, basically. Then we have the Imbiber here. This is also what allows us to have a bit of higher sheet damage, because it basically increases our damage when we're healthy, and this also works for Thorns. Then we have some Vulnerable here. That's always good. We make the targets vulnerable with Exploit. That's really nice. Territorial here. In the next board, this one gives us damage to close enemies and also some extra damage reduction from closed enemies. And we always want to be close to the enemies to damage them with our Thorns. Well, then right now, obviously here, this is not fully maxed. We probably could take like a more direct route, like rotate this board. I haven't done it. Obviously the crit damage node doesn't help us too much, but we also have some physical damage here. So that's not too bad. But ideally, I think you want to branch out from here and just fully populate your Undaunted. And then we could spec into... I'm going to fix it in the planner that I link in the description. We're going to populate the Tenacity glyph down here instead of using these points here, and just go put this board here and just go directly into the board. And we get another 8% life, which again scales our Thorns. And yeah, the maximum life nodes, I will min-max the planner a bit more in the description. But I think this is already like a very good variant. It will serve you well, just like running some speed runs. You can run up into the 70s, 80s probably, comfortably. And then these like 50s, 60s feels really good with the Thorns. And yeah, that's pretty much the guide overview. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.